Kavich here.
Kuzikowski here.
Ladani here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Would everybody please take a look at the minutes of August 27th, 2019? There's no omissions, questions, corrections. Motion, please.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of August 27, 2019.
Chandler second.
Roll call.
Anna, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Ladani abstains.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Item 4, significant common council actions. Carrie?
Council approved the following: an ordinance to rezone the properties at 1001, 1199, and 1203 West Ryan Road and 9600 South 13th Street, north of the creek, from A1 Limited Agricultural B4 Highway Business, M1 Manufacturing to B4 Highway Business with no change to the FW Floodway or FF Flood Fringe Districts. Also approved a resolution expressing support for maintenance of Milwaukee County Transit Service to Oak Creek. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Gets us to item 5A, and that is a plan review and modification request to modify and eliminate the screening on the rooftop mechanical units for Edgewood Elementary located over on Shepherd Avenue. Carrie?
As the mayor mentioned, this is a modification request to eliminate the screening requirement for the rooftop mechanical units at Edgewood Elementary School, which is shown in red on the screen. This is a current photo of Meadowview Elementary School. Sorry. There we go. That's the right school. Current view of the school itself, Edgewood. Meadowview is actually going to be doing the same request. What is outlined in red are the mechanical units that can be seen from Shepherd Avenue at the time. These are examples that have been provided by the applicant of screening and non-screened rooftop mechanical units. So the Plan Commission will recall that the plans approved at the March 12th meeting earlier this year had some information about the existing rooftop mechanical units, which we showed on the screen here, not being screened. There is a requirement in code that when rooftop mechanical units have to be screened from casual view. Now, the reason this came into play is because the existing units are going to be replaced with larger units. So while staff can appreciate that the existing rooftop units are not currently screened, and they have not historically been screened, any change has to comply with code. And this is true for any site or building modification in the city. We would require it regardless. There is something within the narrative that staff disagrees with, that screening will make the rooftop units more visible and less aesthetically pleasing than exposed RTUs. In fact, we find just the opposite. We find that screening has the effect of blending in with the existing architecture of the building, and those structures that don't incorporate screening of rooftop or any of the other kind of mechanical units on the site, that does actually make it more visible, especially considering that other buildings with the screening make it it stands out a bit more because it looks out of place. There are examples, these are the examples in code why we have that code requirement for screening. Staff have consistently included in conditions of approval for Plan Commission consideration that all mechanical unit, whether they be rooftop, building mounted, or ground mounted equipment, including transformers and utility boxes, are screened from view per code requirements, including in this case. So for those reasons that I've just stated, staff does not support the request. However, if the Plan Commission does find that the modification request is acceptable, there is an option, or two options actually, in your staff report for a motion. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Before we put it out to council, we do have a resident wishing to speak on item 5A. Jerry, would you like to come up? Name and address, please.
Gerard Hammernick, 1400 East Meadowview Drive, Oak Creek. I'm on the north side of Meadowview. My remarks are probably more towards Meadowview, but since your actions on Edgewood might influence Meadowview, I'll just speak one time on both of those. The rules were put in place to protect the neighbors. I see no reason why the rules should be set aside in this case. Every applicant would like to save money on building projects, but that isn't a good enough reason to eliminate these requirements that are put in place for neighborhood improvement to make things better. I don't see any reason why this should be approved. I understand it costs money, but making buildings look good does cost money. The rule was put in place, and I think it should be maintained. So thank you for your consideration. My remarks both for A and B, so I don't need to speak again.
Great,
Thank
thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just
Yes.
jump in here. When I provided my remarks, I actually kind of skipped over some of the proposal, some of the images, so that might help with the Plan Commission's decision. What's on the screen right now is an example of what an elevated screen around a rooftop mechanical unit would look like. In this particular photo, it's cream color, but what they would be proposing is gray. This is what the image of the view of the school from the road would look like without a mechanical screen wall. And this is a rendering that incorporates that mechanical screen. For your reference, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Carrie. This time I'll open it up to the commission.
I actually have a question
Go
for
ahead.
the applicant.
Name and address, please.
Brent Warren, 12700 12th Street, Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Okay, so a question for you. Can you explain from your perspective why do you want to differ from the code, and is it just pure cost, or what is it?
No, actually, the main reason is aesthetics. We feel that as a contractor, we've installed these screens on other projects. We feel it actually increases the size to an extreme amount that it makes the units more noticeable and aesthetically less pleasing. You could see the pictures that Carrie showed of some other schools. That's another project where I did, and the size of the screens is so much larger than the units itself that we just feel that it becomes out of place on the roof and becomes more noticeable and more of a distraction and more of a deterrent aesthetically. And the height of the screens also as well, they have to be held up higher that you can actually see underneath of them sometimes, and it's a very weird, almost spaceship looking thing you get around the unit that looks like it's hovering weird. It's just aesthetically very, very, very doesn't fit in with the building.
So it's not blending in with the...
Right. That's what we tried to show on some of these images.
So you have the screening, you just don't have the same material that is by code required.
No, we were proposing to not put any screening.
Oh,
So you would see the gray rooftop unit itself instead of the gray screening.
okay. All right, thank you.
Matt's busy right, and I'll go to the right for a bit. Anybody to the right?
I have a question. If you're required to screen these units, how do you plan to do that?
Well, they attach to the units, so they can be added at any time. Is that your question? Am I answering that correctly?
Not completely, but
So they come on like an aluminum framing system that attaches to the unit itself. That aluminum framing extends off the unit 4 to 5 feet approximately, and then the plastic screening goes on that framing assembly. So the plastic screening like kind of hovers on the framing assembly 4 to 5 feet around the unit itself.
that add any height to the units that you have?
It does, yeah.
How much?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I would say a foot or two.
Bussy?
So this is one of the samples of screening that you've used on other buildings? Is that
That picture you're currently looking at is from the manufacturer. The other pictures where there was 2 like school buildings. Yeah, that's a project that I had done where the screens on top you can see how large they look compared to the unit on the bottom is much smaller looking.
So have you investigated any other screening options, or is this the only one on the market?
There's options on the market, but they all turn out to be basically the same size because they have to be a certain distance away from the unit to allow airflow to the units so they don't overheat and those kind of things, and also to allow serviceability of the units. They have to be, the reason they're so large is they have to be so far away from the unit so you can open the doors and a service guy can go in there and open the doors and those kind of things.
I have a question for Carrie. And my apologies if this is kind of a question that we may need to investigate. We've had screening on other buildings before, the same type of screening, but if I recall, there has been other types as well to just block the view. Is that correct? Am I remembering this correctly?
So screening is required for aesthetic purposes, correct? There are different materials that you can use to screen. In fact, within Drexel Town Square, there's several examples of mechanical units on the roof that have been screened. If you look at the Forge and Flare buildings, you will see above, let's say, any one of the restaurants, their mechanical units are screened. In fact, right here on the back of our building, our mechanical units are screened. The material itself is intended to be kind of blending in with the aesthetic portions of the building. So we've seen colors that are used on the building also used in the materials for screening. We've seen ribbed metal panels as long as they have an aesthetic component to them being used for mechanical screening. This is no different. The Aurora building that is on the corner of Howell and Ryan had extensive mechanical screening that we worked with them on to ensure that they could access the units, that there was proper airflow, and for snow loading purposes. So those were things that we worked out with them. Again, these are requirements that we have for all the buildings in the city. Whether or not they use the mechanical screens or if they screen the mechanicals via rooftop parapet or some other architectural component of the building, we do require them to be screened. So that's where staff's perspective is on this request.
One thing I could add, on new construction projects, it's easy to group the mechanical equipment together in the same location, and then you can do a parapet wall and make it look nice and screen it. On this remodel project, the units need to go where the old units were, so it ends up being a hodgepodge of on one building there's 8 units, on one building there's 7 units spread across the entire roof. So these screens would be dotted across the entire roof.
So there are no other changes on the rooftop besides the size of these units?
Correct.
Thank you.
Fred?
I have a question for Carrie. Do these screening that they recommend, does it comply with the city's requirement?
Rooftop mechanical screens have historically been using kind of like a ribbed metal panel, as I said. So that's something that we have always required a modification request from the Plan Commission. However, it is intended to meet the spirit of the code with the screening requirement. So again, as long as the color blends with the colors that are used on the building, and it makes it look like it's a screening material and not just, just flimsy material that's just thrown up there. We've historically recommended approval for things that are similar to this.
Thank you.
Don, anything?
No, I have no questions.
Chris?
No questions.
What you doing?
Mike's not. I have a question for the applicant. In order to basically provide a modification to our standards, the applicant or the designer has to provide supplemental design elements, basically, or improvements that need to be incorporated. Are there any additional improvements on the project that would supplement this removal?
Sure. Not currently planned. We could definitely go back to the owner and discuss that and propose something that I'm sure that could be accommodated.
Nothing at this time.
No.
That man? All right, I guess I'll weigh in. Personally, it's our code. We screen everything in the city. We don't let our fire departments, our police departments, we don't let ourselves get away with it. Consistency. We have to stick with the code. they need to be screened. That's my vote going forward. So how you screen them, you can work with staff. Again, we've done it on the ground with everything from vegetation to slotted fences, you name it. On the roof, a little different, I do agree, but it can be done. I do get it. This is a retrofit. They're all over the place, but again, that's part of the deal of not having the luxury of building a new school. So you got to work with what you got. But that's my 2 cents worth. So if nobody has anything else, I would motion. And again, if you've read your notes, you would follow this motion, and it would be a denial. It would be a no vote. Am I correct in that, Carrie? Am I wrong?
So
If they
Re-
follow this motion.
regardless of whether you want to cast a yay or nay vote, the motion has to be made in the affirmative. Okay? So you would still make the motion with the conditions, and then your vote would be decided based on yay or nay.
Correct.
Oldani moves that the Plan Commission approves the amendment to the building plan submitted by Andrew Cromie, Oak Creek Franklin School Joint School District for the property at 8545 South Shepherd Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. 2, that all conditions of approval from March 12, 2019 remain in effect except as specifically amended herein. 3, that the proposed rooftop mechanical units are not required to be screened at this time. However, any changes to the rooftop mechanical units will require screening at the time of installation. And 4, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, no.
David.
The last 2 votes were not picked up on the mic, so if we could start over, please.
Hannah, no.
Sullivan, no.
Grillo, no.
David, no.
Guzikowski, no.
Oldani, no.
Seifert, no.
Chandler, no.
Item 5A, it is another plan review modification request. This one is for Meadowview, and this is asking again for the rooftop screening to be eliminated along with the parking lot landscape islands for Meadowview. So, Carrie.
This is going to be requesting pretty much the exact same thing. The rooftop mechanical units to not be screened, and also for, I believe, 3 landscape islands in the southern parking lot to be removed. So this is for Meadowview Elementary School. This is what it currently looks like from the parking lot. And actually, if you do a street view, you can see the outline in red of where the mechanical units are. Now, you will notice that some of the trees are blocking it, but trees last so long. This is the same example that was provided just previously with the screening and without the screening from the mechanical units on the roof. Same kind of screen would be proposed. This is what it would look like without, and this is what it would look like with. Now, as far as the landscaping is concerned, the landscape islands were proposed for the new parking lot that is on the south side of the property, and if I zoom in, you'll get an idea of which ones I'm talking about. Specifically, the ones that are requested to be removed are, if I can get my cursor to, well, I'll do this. This island, the island immediately south of it, and then this area up on the north side, which is right here, where the drive comes from the south and connects down. So these plans were approved by the Plan Commission at the March 12th meeting. Same staff comments regarding the rooftop mechanical units. As far as the landscape islands are concerned, these were actually required as part of code. So while the plans that were viewed at the Plan Commission meeting did not incorporate these landscape islands at the time, there was a condition of approval that stated that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. Now, the specific code requirement states that for any public off-street parking lot that serves at least 25 vehicles, at least 1/2 of the minimum 5% landscape area requirement must be within the parking lot itself, which is why when these plans were reviewed by the department prior to any permits being issued, it was stated that we had to have these islands incorporated into the plans per code. At the time that the Plan Commission reviewed the site plans and landscaping plans for this particular property, there was no modification request for the landscaping, and staff again have consistently incorporated conditions of approval for Plan Commission consideration regarding landscaping, meeting code requirements, and working with staff in order to meet that. So for those reasons stated, staff does not support this request. However, if the Plan Commission views otherwise and thinks that the requests are reasonable, there have been options for motions provided in your staff report. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. And again, Jerry kind of declined his time to speak, but I'll offer it up one more time if you want to talk about the parking. Okay, if not, we'll go right to council. Chauncey, you want to lead us off?
Sure. I have a question for the applicant.
Jason Christensen, Nielsen Madsen Barber, civil consultant to the district, 1458 Horizon Boulevard, Racine, Wisconsin.
Can you provide a little more information on why the removal of these areas and what its plan is to be replaced with?
Yeah, we'd like to remove these landscape islands and replace them with pavement. We're not adding parking stalls or anything like that. It's purely a maintenance, snow removal, long-term aesthetic reason that they want to get rid of these islands. There's plenty of lawn grass around this. There's a lot of space between the building and the parking lot. There's the field to the south of the parking lot. So there's a lot of green space around here. We're not eliminating any landscaping. We would take those trees that we have in those landscape islands and place them elsewhere surrounding the parking lot. So we're not really reducing any of the quantity of landscaping. We would just like to remove that landscaping from within the parking lot. So just to make maintenance easier for district staff.
Thank you.
Your mic.
I have something for the applicant. Two of those islands are already paved. Am I correct?
Yes.
Why was the third one not?
The two were paved in error by the contractor.
On anything?
No, just real quick, there would be no safety concerns by making that road wider at the entry?
No, there's the roadway width, it would be striped out where that island is, so there won't be any parking there or anything like that. The overall 24-foot width of the drive aisle is, standard. So that really wouldn't change.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
No comments.
Donnie?
No comments.
Fred?
Fine.
Chauncey? Nothing? Just to understand, Matt, you brought up they're already paved, or are the curbs in?
Two of the islands, the two smaller ones, have already been paved.
Okay.
The other one has been seeded, I believe.
So one's curbed?
It's not curbed. It's just straight asphalt. I don't think there is any curb out there. It goes from asphalt right to sidewalk on the north side. It blends in at the same level.
Okay. Carrie, just one more thing about the parking, the 25 per with these 3 trees and these 3 islands. That meets our code, correct?
What was required for the interior landscape islands, which I'm bringing up right now, the ones that are highlighted, this particular plan, which was approved by the department, this meets our code. This is what was approved.
Do agree there's plenty of green screen to the south of that. But again, meets our code. I said it the first time, say it the second time, consistency. I would venture my vote to say keep it as the plan's drawn.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
So the code for this, and Carrie, maybe you can correct me, half of 5% is the requirement for the islands?
The requirement is there's two requirements, actually. There's requirement for landscaping if the parking lot is going to be serving more than 5 vehicles. If it's going to be serving at least 25, at least one half of that, or 2.5%, has to be a landscaped area within the parking lot itself.
Okay. The two inner islands, they're already paved out there. Obviously, the district's willing to rip them out, if this is denied, but the larger landscape island up there is 4% of that parking lot. So just that island alone maybe could satisfy the 2.5% of the requirement if we would be allowed to leave the two inner islands paved.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Please sort this out, because if it's meeting code the way it is, how's it going to meet it if we eliminate two?
If the Plan Commission prefers that this meet code requirements, rather than picking and choosing which islands stay and which ones can be paved, let staff work with the applicant to determine which ones may be removed. But we need, if that code requirement is going to be maintained, then that's what the direction would be needed for staff.
I guess I'm just a little confused. If it's meeting our standards now with 3 islands, how are we going to meet it with just 1?
If the code requirement is something that the Plan Commission would like staff to uphold, staff is willing to work with the applicant to ensure that the plans would meet the requirement of code.
I get it. I guess if it's out of code now, it's going to be out of code then. That's what I'm saying.
Can I?
One more shot, buddy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The 3 islands together equate 6% green space. So this parking lot only required 2.5%. So if those 2 inner islands are paved and remain paved, we still have 4% green space, which does still meet the code.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
As I read the code, it says within the parking lot.
Correct.
The larger one, to me, is not within. It's on the outside, adjacent,
Peripheral?
correct?
That's why they get the big money. Anyhow, again, if you want to continue to work with staff, by all means. But again, I'm going to stick to consistency with my particular vote, and I'm going to go with code and staff's recommendation. Any further questions? Okay, motion.
Plan Commission, the Plan Commission approves the amendment to site landscape.
Excuse me, Mr. Alderman.
Yes. Hello.
If you wish to make a motion,
Yes.
under suggested motion, it begins that the Plan Commission approves the amendment. So if Guzikowski wishes to make a motion, that the Plan Commission approves the amendment to the site, landscaping, and building plan submitted by Andrew Carmi, Oak Creek Franklin Joint School District for the property at 10420 South McGraw Drive, with the following conditions.
There you go. So
That-
moved.
That all relevant code requirements remain in effect, that all conditions of approval from March 12, 2019 remain in effect except as specifically amended herein, that the proposed rooftop mechanical units are not required to be screened at this time. However, any changes to the rooftop mechanical units will require screening at the time of installation, that the 3 landscape islands in the south parking lot are not required to be installed at this time. However, any changes to the parking area will require landscaping in conformance with code requirements in effect at the time of the changes. And 5, that all detailed revised plans are submitted in digital format to the Department of Community Development prior to submission of permit applications.
Guzikowski makes
So
that
moved.
motion. So moved.
No need to reread that.
Oldani seconds.
Roll call.
Anna, no.
Grillo, no?
Gavich, no.
Guzikowski, no.
Oldani, no.
Chipper, no.
Chandler, no.
For the recording, Sullivan's vote was no.
Got a bad mic there. Again, if you want to come to staff and come up with alternative solutions, feel free. They are very amenable to listening to requests. Item 5C, a review request for a temporary batch plant set up by Ozinga at 841 West Rawson Avenue. Lori, hey, all right.
Welcome. The applicant is requesting a temporary use permit that would allow for a concrete crushing operation on the property. Oh, well. Why is that showing, Carrie? Speak to me. Excuse me for the technical delays. There we go. All right, let's start over. The applicant is requesting a temporary use permit that would allow for a concrete crushing operation on the property located at 841 West Rawson Avenue until December of 2019. The request would allow Ozinga to have temporary on-site recycling capabilities of their return concrete. A similar request for temporary crushing at this property was reviewed and approved with conditions in March 13, 2018, if you recall. However, this request would allow the applicant the ability to avoid the need for short-term extensions on 14-day temporary use permits due to weather delays. While this permit would allow this use until December, Ozinga proposes no more than 30 crushing days for the remainder of 2019. Days of operation for crushing is proposed to be Monday through Friday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. when crushing is necessary. The process for crushing requires product to be run through one of two portable crushers and stockpiled up to 30 feet stockpile height by a stacking conveyor for consumption as needed for future use. The proposal location for the operation and stockpiles is located in the center of the property, which is more than 600 feet from Rawson Ave. Included with this report are graphics illustrating where on the parcel the stockpiles would be located. The aerial in front of you shows the property. And the second graphic shows the location for the primary stockpile and secondary stockpile area. The operation will comply with noise standards set forth under the municipal code. Dust and debris control measures must be maintained on site throughout the operation. The applicant should coordinate with the water and sewer utility for hydrant or other water needs. Staff believes that this request is reasonable since Ozinga has been previously approved for 3 14-day temporary use permits for crushing activities this year and have run into inclement weather, preventing the full use of the allotted time period. If the Plan Commission is comfortable with the proposal, staff suggests the approval with the conditions noted in the staff report.
Thank you, Lori. Open it up to the commission.
I have a question for you. The hauling trucks, are they using the Rawson to 38 or are they going to the interchange? Or what is the route that they are suggesting for use?
Come on up, please. Name and address.
Good evening. My name is Justin Cradaville. Live at 8356 Greenbrier Road in Wind Lake, Wisconsin. Represent Ozinga Ready Mix Concrete. All truck traffic exits the
Rawson interchange?
Yep, out to Rawson Avenue, and then either east or west on Rawson to their destination. So primarily to the interstate.
So they're going to east or west of Rawson to either Highway 38 or 27th Street, which is 241.
Yes. Or if there's local deliveries. I mean, we've done a considerable amount of work with Amazon, a lot of road projects on Rawson and 6th Avenue, 13th Street. Pardon me?
That's my concern because it's going to be using 13 from Rawson to 13 to haul all of that crushed aggregate or concrete mix or whatever to go there, right?
We have used that route, but there's typically the trucking route is either going to be the interstate or over to 38.
My concern would be if you're going to be using 13, and I don't know if you're going to have a sweeper that cleans behind the truck from Rawson all the way to Ryan.
No, there's no trucks that do that on the interstate.
Exactly.
They're hauled all over, and that's not the requirement. It's really what we're looking at is the batch plan, not the hauling routes, because they could go right down 10th Street to Wildwood for crushed pavement there. So it's really irrelevant where they're going to haul to.
Right, and all of the aggregate trucks, they do come equipped with a tarping system,
Yeah.
automatic tarping system.
Should.
And we do have a street sweeper that comes through a couple of times a week to not only handle our yard for dust suppression, but also onto Rawson Avenue.
So my question is actually relevant to number 8 comment here, where it says that a street sweeper is to be utilized minimum once per day. So I just wanted to know where is this going to be used?
Oh, and he just got it. I probably overtalked him, but if you want to repeat that, where your sweeper's going to do the yard and.
Yeah, so we do have a street sweeper that comes through, and the site is approximately 60% paved. So a street sweeper comes in to take care of the site itself, obviously for sedimentation, also onto Rawson Avenue. We want to be good neighbors, so we do the right thing there.
Similar to what's required in construction projects that you've seen along here, the Amazon site.
Yes, sir.
Anywhere throughout the city. It's a pretty common practice.
Been an ongoing process. Not something new.
Right. We've actually begun the process back in late 2016, where we applied for a conditional use permit. Unfortunately, due to the text amendment, there's no full conditional use permit that is allotted by the city of Oak Creek. At least it was explained to me that way. So we proceeded with the temporary use, the 14-day windows. In 2017, we had 3 separate permits issued. 2018 was 2, and then in 2019 here is 4. Which is, I believe, the maximum allowable by staff. So we do have some extra work to do. Obviously, the demands for construction are pretty heavy right now, and the abilities to service our customers with pure recycled product helps the environment, and obviously it helps the city of Oak Creek.
Given the I-94 project, much of it's going there, or even south of Foxconn, a lot of demand for agriculture.
There is a big demand, yes, sir.
Can you tell us how many trucks will be coming in on a daily basis or in the area?
It generally varies on production, but the benefit of our business is in all trucking businesses, the independent trucking companies that we utilize, we need to maximize their efforts as well. So if they haul material in for the raw material product on the ready-mix concrete side, then they end up getting filled up with recycled material and leaves. So it's not doubling up the amount of trucks that would come in or deadheading, so to speak. It's utilizing the efficiencies of the trucks.
How many trucks a day do you think will be?
For the recycle operation, a 14-day window generally nets us approximately, call it 11,200 tons. So that would equate to about 500 trucks hauling material out of that particular site, which it's over a specific period of time. Obviously, demands of the projects are going to warrant how much we load out in a given day.
Gonna say
Donnie?
this is their business, and business is booming. You got to get it done, and as long as they're doing it responsibly, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't approve this.
We've done it in the past. I guess my only question would be, fire service, anything on the grounds? They've been a good student of yours? I think historically they've been pretty compliant with you.
Absolutely. Mike Kresick Fire Department, we routinely perform route inspections on the property. There really is no concerns on our end for that operation continuing.
Great. All right. Seeing no more discussion, motion.
Guzikowski makes a motion that the Plan Commission approves a temporary use permit for a temporary crushing operation at 841 West Rawson Avenue with the following conditions. 1, that all applicable building permits and fire codes are in effect. 2, that the hours of operation for crushing be limited Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. 3, that temporary use shall expire on December 31st, 2019. 4, that crushing is limited to a Zynga concrete. No materials and from other properties or work sites shall be brought to the site for crushing. 5, that the on-site airborne dust, debris control measures, i.e. example water application, are utilized throughout the operation. 6, that the stockpiles be restricted to locations as shown and approved on the plan and not exceed 30 feet in height. 7, that the truck traffic associated with the temporary use is restricted to state and county highways. 8, that the street sweeper is utilized a minimum of once per day. And 9, that the property be returned to its original condition, all temporary equipment and stockpiles removed within 14 calendar days following the expiration of the temporary use permit.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Zukowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
And item 5D is consideration of a conditional use permit for a physical and occupational therapy clinic and multi-tenant building, property at 140 East Rawson Avenue. Carrie?
The clinic is within a multi-tenant building, which is Building C, under construction on the property shown in red on the screen. So this is one of the St. John Properties locations that we are discussing here. The proposal is to have this clinic within 2 of the tenant suites, taking up approximately 8,500 gross square feet. Hours of operation for the clinic are proposed to be Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 6:30, Saturday 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. or by appointment, no hours on Sunday. They are anticipating between 20 and 50 clients per day and approximately 15 to 20 employees during business hours. Now, they are not specifying between administrative staff and therapeutic staff. However, that'll become more relevant once we talk about parking. Access to the site is via the shared access point off of Rawson Avenue for the development itself. Now, when we get into parking for the site itself, in 2016, the review had 278 parking stalls provided in the plans that were approved. And at the time, the applicant stated that that was adequate based on similar buildings and tenant needs. The development currently is providing 284, so a few more parking stalls, 95 of which are specific to serve Building C. There's an additional 95 parking stalls that are between Buildings B and C that could be shared on a case-by-case basis. The minimum parking requirements for medical, dental, and similar professional health services offices are 5 patient stalls per doctor plus 1 per peak employee. And we don't actually have that type of clinic that's being proposed here because it's more of a client-based situation, and we're not talking about, a physician kind of office here where you might have multiple patients that are coming in around the same time. And there's also no information about the maximum clients that they are expecting on site at any given time. So the example that was provided in the staff report is if all 20 employees that are anticipated would be therapists that could treat clients simultaneously, a total of 100 parking stalls would be required based on that medical office parking requirement and code. However, staff recognizes that's not the type of clinic set up in this type of use. And it's not likely that all employees would be providing therapeutic services to clients simultaneously. Realistically, it's more probable that 1 stall for each therapist plus 1 stall per employee is probably going to be sufficient for the proposed clinic. And since there's a multitude of parking stalls that have been provided that could be shared, staff has no immediate concerns for the provided parking as we see on the screen here. This is the first tenant in, so it's likely that the tenant spaces that are provided in the lease will be based on future tenants as well. There are no site or exterior building modifications being proposed at this time. I mean, the building is actually under construction. The rest of the site is under construction as well. The only modification would be for signs, which will be reviewed at a later time. Should the conditional use permit be recommended for approval, we will need to look at the time of compliance section because this is an active construction site. Typically, we require that the conditional use commence within 12 months of approval. We have extended that due to extenuating circumstances for other sites and requests in the past. So if this is recommended for approval, we will be looking at that for the conditions and restrictions at the next meeting. So if the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposal and feels that it is an appropriate use for this site, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approves a conditional use permit for a clinic within the multi-tenant building on the property at 140 East Rawson Avenue after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Plan Commission's review at the next meeting, which is September 24th. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Open it up. Questions, comments? Fred?
I don't see any problem. I think it's adequate.
Jossie? You're nodding. You're okay. Don?
No question.
Chris? Christina? Matt? What are you doing? Not seeing any problems with it either. I'm glad to see attendance in there. Has nothing to do with anything, but when you plan on getting in that building, like in a year, that building's taking forever too. Up on the mic, please. Just name and address.
Dustin Nikelski, 3441 Bark Lake Road, Hubertus, Wisconsin. I represent St. John Properties. It's been a little bit of a struggle getting that building going. We've had some problems with our grading contractor, and obviously construction's been pretty busy. So we're actually right now at a shortage of supplies. So hearing that meeting about having some aggregate and ABB available is pretty optimistic, because we've been denied actually concrete in the last couple of weeks from all the construction activity in the area. So we're hoping to get wrapped up here soon. The buildings are actually pretty close to being shell complete. Building C is actually all buttoned up. We're still waiting on some site work to get wrapped up and get some stuff done to get the paving in. But we're pretty optimistic to be wrapped up here on that phase of the construction in the next month or two.
Well, thank you for the update and good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Motion, please.
Seifert moves that the planning commission recommends that the common council approved a conditional use permit for a clinic within a multi-tenant building on the property at 140 East Rawson Avenue after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the planning commission's review at the next meeting, September 24th, 2019.
Chandler seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Kuzikowski, aye.
Ladani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay. Just before we adjourn, just a couple of things. Tomorrow is 9/11. There's going to be multiple observances going on, not only in the city, but throughout the county. We are honored. We were given a flag. It's on display here in City Hall. Commemorates 9/11 and all those that were lost. Not only those lost the day of, but that tragedy continues to take first responders and survivors of that incident. So keep them in your thoughts. On a brighter note, this weekend brings us a sneak peek here in Oak Creek. Kicks off at 9 a.m. There's a multitude of places to visit. See behind the scenes everything from our fire departments, water department, Water Street Brewery, Coptic Church, to name a few. Oak Creek Historical Society gives everybody a chance to get through there. You can get a passport type thing punched and get some prizes. So please turn out for that. Also going on simultaneously, Shred Day is 21st? I'm sorry. Shred Day will be September 21st at West Middle School again.
Yes, sir.
Kicking off 8 a.m.? 9 a.m. That has just grown in popularity. We needed to move it to a larger location, so it's at West Middle School. And then, of course, our farmers market continues. And what's going on special there, Dawn?
Some of the sneak peek things will be available at the farmer's market. Police and fire will have their.
So again, turn out, bring the kids. I had a child ask me just the other day what the temperature of the water is in the water tower, and I did not know, so I guess I got to go to the sneak peek and figure that one out. So. Anyways, with that, motion to...
Mr. Mayor, I have one more
go
announcement.
ahead.
At the previous Plan Commission meeting, I had misspoken, and I said that the zoning workshop would be held October 10th, and the comprehensive plan would be, open house would be October 1st. I had them reversed. So for anybody who's keeping score, the zoning workshop, which is a public participation event, the first one talking about the zoning code update, that will be October 1st here in the multipurpose room from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. And the comprehensive plan open house, which will be the first public viewing of the draft document, will be October 10th in the multipurpose room between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Staff will be available, as well as the consultants from House of Levine to answer any questions and to have any public input provided.
Okay. And Lori, very quickly, the skate park, did that one come and pass? Was that last week or is it coming up?
Yeah, it was August 28th. Went really well.
Okay, so we got input into the skate park. Again, just if you miss a seminar, you can always contact Lori or our Park and Recs division with your ideas and suggestions.
I do want to note that we also have an online survey available for the public that couldn't attend.
Oh.
And you can find that information online on the city website.
Great, thank you very much. I think that's it. Can we adjourn now? All right.
Carrillo moves to adjourn at 6:50.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Sullivan, aye.
Carrillo, aye.
Bekavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Aldani, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.